of all living entities. तदनन्तरं पूर्वोक्तः ब्रह्मन्नारदसंवादः प्रवृत्तः इत्याह प्रजापतिः इति पंचभिः. Then in 5 verses, beginning with the current verse, he states, Sukadeva Goswami states, that the conversation between Brahma and Narada took place. Swarthasya swasrashtrittvasya vanchaya niyamanyamana. Desiring self-interest as a creator, he uh, accepted the yamas and niyamas, the rules and regulations, and the principles of control. He accepted the positive and negative injunctions. Prajanam bhadram matrartham cha bhavartham cha atmane kalpanaya chet yukta lakshanamiti. Okay, this requires some explanation. Why did he engage in this activity of creation? Why does creation take place? That is settled in a very famous statement here. Dhindriya manah pranan jananam asrijat prabhu matrartham cha bhavartham cha atmane kalpanaya cha. The Supreme Lord manifested the material intelligence, senses, mind, and vital air of the living entities so that they could indulge their desires for sense gratification, take repeated births to engage in fruitive activities, become elevated in future lives, and ultimately attain liberation. So this is the purpose for which the Supreme Lord himself wants creation to take place, and Lord Brahma, he understood that. Therefore, he wanted to engage in the activity of creation. Yama niyaman atishta swa acharane shikshayan mad prajaha yama niyaman atishtantu ityeva swarthakamya ityeva swarthakamya kamyataya kamyataya. So he engaged in these activities, he accepted these yamas and niyamas, the positive and negative rules, the prescriptions and prohibitions, in order to set an example and teach the population that may they also accept the prescriptions and prohibitions, because no one does what is instructed to them, rather they do what you do. All teachers necessarily need to be exemplary. One cannot be situated in an exalted position without having undertaken a regulative life of rules and regulations. An unrestricted life of sense gratification is animal life. Yathecha achar, yatha icha achara. This is a concept, this is an expression that signifies that you do whatever you feel like doing. Yathecha achara. Another expression is swa icha acharaha, swechacharaha. That is also same. You do whatever you feel like doing. And all of this refer to a barbarian way of living, animal life. And Lord Brahma, in order to teach all concerned within the jurisdiction of his generation, taught the same principles of sense control for executing higher duties. He desired the welfare of all as servants of God, and anyone desiring the welfare of the members of his family and generations must conduct a moral religious life. The highest life of moral principles is to become a devotee of the Lord, because a pure devotee of the Lord is all the good qualities of the Lord. On the other hand, one who is not a devotee of the Lord, however qualified he may be in the mundane sense of the term, cannot be qualified with any good quality worthy of the name. The pure devotees of the Lord, like Brahma and persons in the chain of disciplic succession, do not do anything to instruct their subordinates without acting accordingly themselves. 641. Tam Narada Priyatamo Rikthadanam Anuvrataha शुश्रूषमाण शीलेन प्रश्रयेण दमेन च. This is not a complete sentence. Narada, in Sanskrit, Narada, the most dear of the inheritor sons of Brahma, always ready to serve his father, strictly follows the instructions of his father by his mannerly behavior, meekness, and sense control. आदानां पुत्राणां मध्ये प्रियतमः तं पितरं सेवमानः शीलादिना परितोषयामास इति उत्तरेण अन्वयः. The sentence is completed uh, with the next verse where it is stated that he satisfied Lord Brahma. रिक्थं धनं पैतृकं दायं प्राप्तत्वेन आददते इति रिक्तादाः पुत्राः. Rikthadanam refers to sons who inherit the property of their father. Tesha madhye priyatama. And Narada was the most dear of the inheritor sons of Brahma. इति कर्मयोग ज्ञानयोग भक्ति योगानां पैतृक धनानां मध्ये दक्षादयः कर्मयोगं प्रापुः सनकादयः ज्ञानं नारदो भक्तिं प्रापेति नारदस्य उत्कर्षः. The inheritance, the property which is meant to be inherited from Brahma are karma yoga, jnana yoga, and bhakti yoga. Among them, Daksha and the other sons, 8 sons, no, 9 sons, they attained karma yoga. The 4 Kumaras attained jnana yoga. Narada attained bhakti yoga. Therefore, we understand this because Narada is the best. Anuvrataha Pitrubhakta. He was always ready to serve his father. Very obedient. Text 42. Mayam Vividishan Vishnu. Mayeshasya Mahamuni. Mahabhagavato Rajan. Pitaram Paryatoshayat. Narada very much pleased his father and desired to know all about the energies of Vishnu, the master of all energies. For Narada was the greatest of all sages and greatest of all devotees. You wanted to understand Maya. Mayam kripam vividishan. Tasya vaichitrim gyatamichan. One of the meanings of the word Maya is kripa, mercy. So he wanted to understand the nature of Lord Vishnu's mercy. In other words, he wanted to understand the varieties of Lord Vishnu's mercy. Mayeshasya mayaya kripaya ishte sarvam vashikaroti iti tasya. He controls everyone through his compassion, through his mercy. Mayam bahiranga shaktim kripamba. Maya refers to compassion or his external potency. Tasya vaichitrim gyatam. The Supreme Lord is described as Mayeshasya, which indicates that he is the master of Maya. Lord Brahma, being the creator of all living beings in the universe, is originally the father of several well-known sons like Daksha, the Chatuspathi, and Narada, in 3 departments of human knowledge disseminated by the Vedas, namely fruitive work, Karma Kanda, transcendental knowledge, Jnana Kanda, and devotional service, Upasana Kanda. Devarshi Narada inherited from his father, Brahma, devotional service, whereas Daksha inherited from his father, fruitive work, and Sanaka, Sanatana, etc., inherited from their father information about Jnana Kanda or transcendental knowledge. But out of them all, Narada is described here as the most beloved son of Brahma because of good behavior, obedience, meekness, and readiness to render service unto the Father. And Narada is famous as the greatest of all sages because of his being the greatest of all devotees. Narada is the spiritual master of many famous devotees of the Lord. He is the spiritual master of Prahlad, Dhruva, and Vyasa, down to the forest animal hunter Kirata. His only business is to turn everyone to the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Therefore, all these features of Narada make him the dearmost son of his father. And all this is due to Narada's being a first-class devotee of the Lord. The devotees are always anxious to know more and more about the Supreme Lord, the master of all energies, as he confirms in the Bhagavad Gita 10.9. Machitta madgata prana bodhayantah parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti charamanti. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. The Supreme Lord is unlimited, and its energies are also unlimited. No one can know them completely. Brahmaji, being the greatest living entity within this universe and being directly instructed by the Lord, must know more than anyone else within this universe, although such knowledge may not be complete. This is a theme that comes from the conversation between Lord Brahma and Narada. Thus, it is the duty of everyone to ask about the unlimited Lord from the spiritual master in the disciplic succession of Brahma, which descends from Narada to Vyasa, from Vyasa to Shukadeva, and so on. Text 43. Tushtam nishamya pitaram lokanam prapitamaham devarshih paripapracha bhavan yan manu prichati. The great sage Narada also inquired in detail from his father Brahma, the great-grandfather of all the universe, after seeing him well satisfied. Nishamya, drishtva, gyatva, iti arthaha. Ma, तुष्टम इति भवान यन मानु पृच्छति प्यारिकम तत्र तत्र तत्त सर्वस्य समावेशयितुं शक्यत्वात्. Whatever was asked by Parikshit Maharaj to Sukadeva Goswami, the answers to those questions can be found within the conversation between Brahma and Narada. So that is what is being mentioned here. Oh, Bhavan Yan Manu Prichati indicates that whatever you are inquiring from me, all of that Devarshi Narada inquired from his father when he saw that his father was satisfied, and his father was the great-grandfather of the whole universe. The process of understanding spiritual or transcendental knowledge from the realized person is not exactly like asking an ordinary question from the schoolmaster. The schoolmasters in the modern days are paid agents for giving some information, but the spiritual master is not a paid agent, nor can he impart instruction without being authorized. In the Bhagavad Gita 4.34, the process of understanding transcendental knowledge is directed as follows. Advidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnanenas tattvadarshinaha. Arjuna was advised to receive transcendental knowledge from the realized person by surrender, questions, and service. Receiving transcendental knowledge is not like exchanging dollars. Such knowledge has to be received by service to the spiritual master. As Brahmaji received the knowledge directly from the Lord by satisfying him fully, similarly, one has to receive transcendental knowledge from the spiritual master by satisfying him. The spiritual master's satisfaction is the means of assimilating transcendental knowledge. One cannot understand transcendental knowledge simply by becoming a grammarian. Here, grammarian is an indication that one cannot just know by becoming a scholar. You cannot just learn the language, Sanskrit, and so on, or study. And in that way, you cannot grasp the essence of scripture. For that, one has to satisfy the bona fide spiritual master. This is such an important point that all the four Vaishnava Acharyas, they talk about this. Madhvacharya also talks about this. Even though Madhvacharya accepts that Lord Brahma is the greatest spiritual master, and one may have sadhaka gurus who are not as great as Brahma. Still, unless one satisfies the superior authority, the spiritual master, Lord Hari will not reveal from within your heart the actual meaning of what you have learned, even if you have learned anything correctly. So it is to satisfy Krishna that actually all of this has to be done. And Krishna will not be satisfied unless we surrender to those who are more advanced than us in Vairagya, Vidya, Bhakti. The Vedas declare, Vedashmatra Upanishad 6.23, Yasya deve parabhaktiri yatha deve tatha guru tasyaide gathita tha prakashanti mahatmanaha. Only unto one who has unflinching devotion to the Lord and to the spiritual master does transcendental knowledge become automatically revealed. Such a relationship between the disciple and the spiritual master is eternal. One is now the disciple, is the next spiritual master, and one cannot be a bona fide and authorized spiritual master unless one has been strictly obedient to his spiritual master. Brahmaji, as a disciple of the Supreme Lord, received the real knowledge and imparted it to his dear disciple Narada. And similarly, Narada, as spiritual master, handed over this knowledge to Vyasa and so on. Therefore, the so-called formal spiritual master and disciple are not facsimiles of Brahma and Narada or Narada and Vyasa. The relationship between Brahma and Narada is reality, while the so-called formality is the relation between the cheater and the cheated. It is clearly mentioned herewith that Narada is not only well-behaved, meek and obedient, but also self-controlled. One who is not self-controlled, specifically in sex life, can become neither a disciple nor a spiritual master. One must have disciplinary training in controlling speaking, anger, the tongue, the mind, the belly, and the genitals. One who has controlled the particular senses mentioned above is called a Goswami. Without becoming a Goswami, one can become neither a disciple nor a spiritual master. The so-called spiritual master without sense control is certainly a cheater, and the disciple of such a so-called spiritual master is the cheated. So, therefore, in Upadeshamrita, the first three verses, they talk about actually the disciple, the qualifications of a person who wants to make spiritual progress. And then the next three verses in Upadeshamrita, they talk about who one should associate with and how one should associate with. And their acceptance of the spiritual master comes. So these are all preliminary considerations. One should not think of Brahmaji as a dead great grandfather as we have experienced on this planet. He's the oldest great grandfather and he's still living, and Narada is also living. The age of the inhabitants of the Brahmaloka planet is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. The inhabitants of this small planet Earth can hardly calculate even the duration of one day of Brahma. I see a question here somewhere. Chat box, there are two. How to understand who's more advanced than us? That is very easy. You just have to check to what extent the other person is superior to us in Vairagya, Vidya, and Bhakti. How to choose to whom one should surrender? One should hear that person to understand what's in his mind. That is how one understands. Then text 44. Tasma idam bhagavatam puranam dashalakshanam proktam bhagavata praha pritah putraya bhutakrit. Thereupon, the supplementary Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavatam, which was described by the personality of Godhead and which contains 10 characteristics, was told with satisfaction by the father Brahma to his son Narada. Bhagavata Chatushlokya Samkshepena Proktam Vistarena Praha. So what Lord Brahma had told Narada was actually an expansion of what was spoken by Lord Krishna to Brahma in 4 shlokas. The Dasha Lakshanani Lakshaniya Artha Vidyante Yasmin Stha. It has 10 characteristics. Tasma iti Dashalakshanamitī Janmadhyasyeति vat Chatushlokyamaspi tattat antarbhavayitum shakyatvat न च पूर्णम् उपदिदेशेति व्याख्यैव त्वम् एतद् विपुलीकुरु इति ब्रह्मणः प्रागुक्ति विरोधः. So he explained the 10 characteristics, but not in detail, because that would contradict 2.7.51, which says that, in which Lord Brahma tells Narada, now you expand this. Now you expand this itself indicates that what he had spoken to Narada was a summary. Bhagavata Chatushlokya Sankhepena Proktam Vistarena Dashalaksham Brahma Praha. Chatushlokya Sankhepena Prochya Dashalaksham Dvadasha Skandha Atmakam Sampurnameva Bhagavata Proktam Iti Cha Kechidahu. So the Supreme Lord had briefly described Srimad Bhagavatam in 4 shlokas. But some authorities say that he actually spoke the complete content of 12 cantos with the 10 characteristics. Actually, what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says is, there are some authorities who say that the Supreme Lord himself revealed the content of the 12 cantos with the 10 characteristics to Brahma after he had briefly described Chatushloki. Some authorities say like that. Although the Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken in 4 verses, it has 10 characteristics which will be explained in the next chapter. In the 4 verses, it is first said that the Lord existed before the creation, and thus the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam includes the Vedanta aphorism Janmadhyasyata. Okay. Srila Jiva Goswami says that just as the first verse includes the meaning of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, so like that, the Chatushloki includes the entire meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam. Janmadhyasya yataha is the beginning, yet the 4 verses in which it is said that the Lord is the root of everything that be, beginning from the creation up to the supreme abode of the Lord, naturally explain the 10 characteristics. One should not misunderstand by wrong interpretations. The Lord spoke only 4 verses, and that therefore all the rest of the 17,996 verses are useless. So we should also remember that a verse here refers to a grantha. It is a method of counting in the Vedic system of knowledge. A grantha is 32 syllables. So Bhagavatam has 18,000 granthas. The 10 characteristics, as will be explained in the next chapter, require so many verses just to explain them properly. Brahmaji had also advised Narada previously that he should expand the idea he had heard from Brahmaji. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed this to Srila Rupa Goswami in a nutshell. But the disciple Rupa Goswami expanded this very elaborately. The same subject was further expanded by Jiva Goswami and even further by Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. We are just trying to follow in the footsteps of all these authorities. So Srimad Bhagavatam is not like ordinary fiction or mundane literature. It is unlimited in strength, and however one may expand it according to one's own ability, Bhagavatam still cannot be finished by such expansion. Srimad Bhagavatam, being the sound representation of the Lord, is simultaneously explained in 4 verses and in 4 billion verses all the same, inasmuch as the Lord is smaller than the atom and bigger than the unlimited sky. Such is the potency of Srimad Bhagavatam. See how to make our Siddhanta Saraswati's explanation if he has anything on this. What is this? Oh, text 45. नारदः प्राह मुनये सरस्वत्यास्तटे नृप ध्यायते ब्रह्म परमं व्यासायामित तेजसे. In succession, O king, the great sage Narada instructed Srimad Bhagavatam unto the unlimitedly powerful Vyasadeva, who meditated in devotion service upon the Supreme Personality of God, the Absolute Truth, on the bank of the river Saraswati. तत् संप्रदायतः भागवतं मया ज्ञातम् इत्याशयनाः नारद इति. Sukadeva Goswami points out that it is through a disciplic succession that I learned this Bhagavatam. एवं नारायणो ब्रह्मणे ब्रह्मा नारदाय नारदो व्यासाय व्यासो मह्यम अहम तो तुभ्यम आख्यास्य इति भागवतीय कथा षट संवादीया प्रसिद्धा. So Narayana had explained Sri Bhagavatam to Brahma, Brahma to Narada, Narada to Vyasa, Vyasa to me, and uh, I will speak to you. So the discussions, um, the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam or the narrations of Srimad Bhagavatam consists of 6 conversations, 6 famous conversations. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th chapter, verse 13, Narada instructed the great sage Vyasadeva as follows. Atho mahabhagam bhavanamokha शुचिश्रवा सत्य रतो धृतव्रत पुरुक्रमस्याखिल बंधु मुक्त ये समाधिना अनुस्मर तद्विचेष्टितम. O greatly fortunate pious philosopher, your name and fame are universal, and you are fixed in the absolute truth with spotless character and infallible vision. I ask you to meditate upon the activities of the personality of Godhead, whose activities are unparalleled, not prapte. Jiva Goswami says, when it is said that Narada attained it, and Narada also said, told Vyasadeva through this instruction, Samadhina Anusmaratad Vicheshkitam. Through your Samadhi, you should remember and then describe the activities of the Supreme Lord. It is also mentioned that the Supreme Lord himself spoke the truth about himself to Lord Brahma, the Adi Kavi, in 1.1.1. So, like that, when Vyasa was meditating on the impersonal form of Brahman, then Narada Muni came and gave him knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is far superior to that. So, in the disciplic succession of the Brahma Sampradaya, the practice of yoga meditation is not neglected. But because the devotees are bhakti yogis, they do not undertake the trouble to meditate upon the impersonal Brahman. As indicated here, they meditate on Brahma Paramam, or the Supreme Brahman. Brahman realization begins from the impersonal effulgence, but by further progress of such meditation, manifestation of the Supreme Soul, Paramatma realization takes place. And progressing further, realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is fixed. Sri Narada Muni, as the spiritual master of Vyasadeva, knew very well the position of Vyasadeva, and thus he certified the qualities of Srila Vyasadeva as fixed in the absolute truth with great vow, etc. Narada advised meditation upon the transcendental activities of the Lord. Impersonal Brahman has no activities, but the personality of Godhead has many activities. And all such activities are transcendental without any tinge of material quality. If the activities of the Supreme Lord were material activities, then Narada would not have advised Vyasadeva to meditate upon them. And the Param Brahma is Lord Shri Krishna, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. In the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna realized the factual position of Lord Krishna, he addressed Lord Krishna in the following words: Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum, Ahustvam Rishayas Sarve Devarshir Naradas Tatha, Asito Devalo Vyasas Swayam Chaiva Pravishime. Arjuna summarized the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita by his realization of Lord Shri Krishna, and thus said, my dear personality of Godhead, you are the supreme absolute truth, the original person in the eternal form of bliss and knowledge. And this is confirmed by Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyasadeva. And above all, you yourself have also personally confirmed it. Bhagavad Gita 10.12 to 13. When Vyasadeva fixed his mind in meditation, he did it in Bhakti Yoga trance and actually saw the Supreme Person with Maya, the illusory energy and contraposition. He noticed that Maya and the Supreme Lord, they were situated not in the same place. Prabhupada will explain this. As we have discussed before, the Lord's Maya or illusion is also a representation because Maya has no existence without the Lord. Darkness is not independent of light. Without light, no one can experience the contraposition of darkness. Contraposition means the counter correlate. When we talk about light, then the opposite of that is darkness. This is what Prabhupada refers to as the contraposition. However, this Maya or illusion cannot overcome the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but stands apart from him. Therefore, the perfection of meditation is realization of the personality of Godhead along with this transcendental activity. Meditation on the impersonal Brahman is a troublesome business for the meditator, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Kleshojhigadarastesham avyakta satta chetasa. 12.5. Text 46. Yaddutaham tvaya prishto vairajat purushadidam yathasi taddupakhyaste prashnananyamscha kritsnashah. O king, your questions as to how the universe became manifested from the gigantic form of the personality of Godhead, as well as other questions, I shall answer in detail by explanation of the four verses already mentioned. भागवत व्याख्यानेनैव त्वत्प्रश्नानाम् उत्तरं दास्यामि इत्याह. I will answer your questions through this explanation known as Bhagavata. With this in mind, he speaks the current verse. पुरुषावयवैर्लोका सपालाः पूर्वकल्पिताः इत्यादिना वैराजात् पुरुषादिदं विश्वं कथम् आसीत् इति यदहं त्वया पृष्टः तद् यथावदुपाख्यास्यामि शृणु. In 2.8.11, the question was raised, how was this Vishwa or this world brought into existence from the Virat Purusha, the universal form? I will properly explain it. Listen to me. As stated in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, this great transcendental literature is the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic knowledge. And therefore, all questions that can be humanly possible regarding the affairs, regarding the universal affairs, beginning from its creation, are all answered in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The answers depend only on the qualification of the person who explains them. The 10 divisions of Srimad Bhagavatam, as explained by the great speaker Srila Shukadeva Goswami, are the limitation of all questions, meaning they are the final limit of all questions. And intelligent persons will derive all intellectual benefits from them by proper utilization. Okay, move on to chapter 10. Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. Text 1. Shri Shukra Vacha. अत्र सर्गो विसर्गश्च स्थानं पोषणम् ऊतयः मन्वन्तरेशानुकथा निरोधो मुक्तिराश्रयः. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 10 divisions of statements regarding the following: the creation of the universe, subcreation, planetary systems, protection by the Lord, the creative impetus, the change of manus, the signs of God, returning home, back to Godhead, liberation, and the summum bonum. ततो भागवत व्याख्याद्वारैव दशमे स्फुटम् राजप्रश्नोत्तरं वक्तुम् आरेभे बादरायणिः. And then Badarayani, or the son of Badarayana Vyasadeva, he began to present answers to the king's questions in order to clarify the 10th subject matter. This is through the explanation of Srimad Bhagavatam. Dashalakshanam Puranam Prahetyukta stated that he explained the Purana with 10 characteristics. Tani Dasha Laksh. 2 point. Why does he say Dashami? Why Dashami? Gives the impression that you wanted to speak the 10th canto. So I'm just quickly just having a look to see if this taking time. Anyway, okay. Dasha Lakshana. That's what I suspected. He said that he's going to speak about the Purana and then 10 characteristics. Now, he points out those 10 characteristics. Manvantara and Ishana Katha are two separate items. तदेव हि आश्रय संज्ञम महापुराण लक्षण रूप सर्गादिभिरर्थैः निर्देश द्वारा अपि लक्ष्यते इत्यत्र द्वाभ्यां यत्र आह द्वाभ्यां अत्र सर्वविसर्गस्य अत्र सर्ग विसर्गादि दशार्थाः सुष्ठु लक्षिताः अध्यात्मादि विभागस्य दशमे सम्यक् ईरितः. Oh, dashame in the 10th chapter. Now I get it. 10th is not 10th canto, 10th chapter. The 10th chapter of second canto. Okay. So in this 10th chapter, Gurudeva Goswami uh, nicely explains the 10 items beginning with Sarga and Visarga. So these are very properly defined. And also the distinctions between Adhyatma, Adhidaiva, and Adhibhautika. Adhyatma, Adhidaiva, and Adhibhuta. These are also very clearly brought up here. पूर्व अध्यायान्ते दशलक्षणं पुराणं प्राहेति उक्तं तानि दशलक्ष here also तानि दर्शयति अत्र text 2 दशमस्य विशुद्ध्यर्थं नवानां ह्य लक्षणं वर्णयन्ति महात्मानः श्रुतेनार्थेन चाञ्जसा. To isolate the transcendence of the summum bonum, the symptoms of the rest are described sometimes by Vedic evidence, sometimes by direct explanation, and sometimes by summary explanations given by the great sages. ननु एवम् अर्थभेदात् शास्त्रभेदः स्यात्. तत्र दशमस्य आश्रयस्य विशुद्ध्यर्थं तत्त्वज्ञानार्थं नवानां लक्षणं स्वरूपम्. Question: because of the difference in these topics, because of a variety of these topics, is there a variety of scriptures? Regarding that, he says that these 9 topics, 9 characteristics, are to help us to understand the truth clearly about the 10th topic, which is Ashraya, the shelter, the ultimate shelter. Ekasyaiva pradhanya nayam dosha ityartha. Because that one topic is dominant, it's prominent. This is not a defect. Anu atra naivam pratiyate ataha. But it doesn't appear to be like so. In Bhagavata, anticipating that, Sukadeva Goswami says, Shrutena, Shrutya eva. स्तुत्यादिस्थानेषु अंजसा साक्षात् वर्णयन्ति. In glorifications and so on, these are directly described in a straightforward manner. Arthena, तात्पर्य वृत्त्या च तत्तद् आख्यानेषु. And then sometimes the import of these 10 topics are presented through various histories. आश्रमस्य आश्रयस्य विशुद्धिः वस्तुअन्तरेण अमिश्रितत्वम्. So to isolate the 10th topic from the other topics, because it is a shelter, it will naturally be everywhere. But to have a distinct understanding of it. वस्तुअन्तरं च अत्र स्वर्गादि नरकं परमेश्वर हेतुकं जीवगतमेव जीवस्यैव सृज्यत्व पाल्यत्व संहार्यत्व दर्शनम्. The topics other than the 10th topic of shelter, they refer to Swarga, Naraka, and so on, which are brought about by the Supreme Lord and which actually pertain to the Jivas. Because it is only the Jiva that is subject to creation, maintenance, and dissolution. We see that. Ataha, ekasya ashrayasya eva shastra vishayatvat na ayam dosha. So because this scripture has a single subject, it is having the single subject of ashraya. Therefore, this is not a problem. Shrutena, क्वचित् स्तुत्यादिषु तद्वाचक शब्देन एव साक्षात् वर्णयन्ति. Sometimes authorities describe these 10 subject matters in a very literal sense, very explicitly, through their prayers and so on. Arthena cha, tatparya vrittya cha tattadakhyaneshu. And then sometimes by presenting the import of these 10 topics through various narrations, historical narrations. Mahatma, Vidura Maitreya Adaya, by great sages such as Vidura, Maitreya, and so on. भूतमात्रेन्द्रियध्यां जन्मसर्ग उदाहृतः ब्रह्मणो गुणवैषम्याद् विसर्गः पौरुषस्मृतः. The elementary creation of 16 items of matter, namely the 5 elements: fire, water, earth, air, and sky, sound, form, taste, smell, and touch, and the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, and mind is known as sarga, whereas subsequent resultant interaction of the modes of material nature is called visarga. So now he begins to present a definition of each of these topics, beginning with sarga. भूतानि आकाशादीनि मात्राणि च शब्दादीनि इंद्रियाणि च धी शब्देन महतः अहंकारो. Dhyam of the mind. That includes Mahatattva and false ego. Gunanam Vaishamyat Parinamat Brahmana Parameshwarat Kartuhu Bhutadinam Yat Virat Rupina Swarupatascha Janma Sasarga. So all of these have come about by uh, the agitation of the modes of material nature. Then from uh, the Supreme Lord, in his exact form of the universal form, all of these are manifested. Visargamaha. Then he describes Visarga, Paurusha Smrtaha. Paurushaha, Vairajaha, Tatkritaha, Paurushaha, Charachara Sargaha, Visargaha Ityarthaha. The Vairajaha, Tatkritaha, Paurushaha, Charachara Sarga. Creation of the actual moving and non-moving creatures from that universal form, that is known as Visarga. Tam evam dashamam vispashtayitum tesham dashanam vyutpadikam saptashloki maha bhutamatreti. In order to make it very clear, the 10th topic, all of the 10 subject matters are defined in terms of their etymology also in 7 verses, beginning with text 3. Purushaha Vairajaha Brahma Tatkritah Paurushas Charachara Sargo Visarga Ityarthaha. Visarga is brought about by Brahma. Brahma himself is the Vairaja Purusha. That means he is the product of the Virat. He is the one who brings about this Visarga, which is actually creation of Chara and Achara. In other words, Lord Vishnu empowers Brahma to do Visarga. The elements are directly and through the Virat Rupa brought about, and that is Sarga. Jivanam yatha yogam bhakti mukti bhukti sadhanam buddhi indriyadi prapti rupa srishti rupta. So these are the 2 types of creation that uh, help them attain intelligence and other elements with which they can endeavor for bhakti, Vishnu bhakti, mukti, liberation, or bhukti, uh, sense enjoyment, as appropriate for the jivas. In order to explain the 10 divisional symptoms of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 7 continuous verses. The first of these under reference pertains to the 16 elementary manifestations of earth, water, etc., with material ego composed of material intelligence and mind. The subsequent creation is the result of the reactions of the above mentioned 16 energies of the first Purusha, the Mahavishnu incarnation of Govinda, as later explained by Brahma in his treatise, Brahma Samhita 5.47 as follows. Yah karananava jale bhajatisma yoga nidramananta jagadanda saroma kupaha. Adhara shaktim avalambya paramsva murtim govindam adipurusham tamaham vajami. The first Purusha incarnation of Govinda, Lord Krishna, known as the Mahavishnu, goes into a Yoganidra mystic sleep, and the innumerable universes are situated in potency in each and every hair hole of his transcendental body. As mentioned in the previous verse, one must refer to the Vedic conclusions, Struttena, to understand how the creation is made possible from the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly by manifestation of his particular energies. Without such a Vedic reference, the creation appears to be a product of material nature. This conclusion comes from a poor fund of knowledge. From Vedic reference, it is concluded that the origin of all energies, namely internal, external, and marginal, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as explained herein before, the illusory conclusion is that the creation is made by the inert material nature. The Vedic conclusion is transcendental light, whereas the non-Vedic conclusion is material darkness. The internal potency of the Supreme Lord is identical with the Supreme Lord, and the external potency is enlivened in contact with the internal potency. The parts and parcels of the internal potency which react in contact with the external potency are called the marginal potency or the living entity. Thus, the original creation is directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead or Parabrahman, and the secondary creation, as a reactionary result of the original ingredients, is made by Brahma. Thus, the activities of the whole universe are started. It's for Sthithir Vaikuntha Vijaya, Poshanam Tad Anugraha, Manvantarani Sadharma, Udaya Karma Vasana. The right situation for the living entities is to obey the laws of the Lord and thus be in perfect peace of mind under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Manus and their laws are meant to give right direction in life. The impetus for activity is a desire for fruitive work. Sthiti Vaikuntha Vijaya. The right situation is the victory of the Lord of Vaikuntha. Oshanam Tadanugraha. Maintenance refers to his causeless mercy. Manvantarani Sadharmaha. The reigns of the Manus indicate the perfect occupational duty. Bhutaya Karmavasana. And the impetus to work is the desire for fruitive work. So here, Sthiti is one topic, Oshana is another, Manvantara is another, Uti. Uti is singular, Utayaha is plural. The impetuses to work. Karmavasanaha is also plural. It refers to the desires for fruitive work. Prabhupada is presenting them in the singular because while talking about a category, you can use a singular. Vaikunthasya Bhagavataha Vijayah Srishtanam Tatan Maryadapalanena Utkarshaha Sthiti Sthana. So Sthiti refers to positioning all those who have been created in their respective places according to their earned limits. And in that way, the exalted position of Lord Bhagavan, Lord Vishnu, that is clear. Swabhakteshu tasya anugraha poshana. Poshana refers to the Lord's mercy upon his devotees. Tad anugrahitanam satam manvantara patinam dharma sadharma. Sadharma refers to the dharma that is followed by the rulers during the Manvantaras, who are saints, who have been blessed by him. Dharmanam vasanaha veng tantu santane yujyante karmabhi santanyante iti utayaha. So uti refers to the propensities for material activities which are interwoven with these various activities that they are engaged in. Uyante karmabhir brumhyante samshushyante iti va utayaha. It also refers to activities by which karma is increased or by which one becomes attached to karmic reactions. Sthitiriti, Vaikunthasya Bhagavataha Vijayah Srishtanam Tatan Maryadamara. This is just almost right from Sridhar Swami. Okay, some distinctions are there. Manvantarani. Tatan Manvantarasthitanam Manvadinam Tadanugrihitanam Satam Charitani. The activities of Manu and the others who have been blessed by the Supreme Lord. That is referred to as Manvantara. Tanyeva dharmastad upasana akhyaha sadharmaha. And those activities themselves constitute dharma, which is known as meditation on the Supreme Lord or worship of the Supreme Lord, and that is sadharma. यतो वैकुंठस्य भगवतः विजयः सृष्टिकर्तुः ब्रह्मणः संहारकर्तुः शम्भोश्च सकाशात् उत्कर्षः स्थितिः स्थानम्. So in the discussions regarding sthiti, the victory of Bhagavan Vaikuntha is presented. The victory of Bhagavan Vaikuntha means him being more exalted than Brahma, the creator, and Shambhu, the destroyer. Yadva Vaikuntha Harihi Tat Kartrikaha Jiva Dukha Abhibhavaha Jayater Abhibhavarthakatva. Or else it means Vaikuntha means Lord Hari. And his overcoming the distresses of the Jiva, that is Vaikuntha Vijaya and that is Sthiti. Evam Srishtyantaram Jivanam Sthirukta. So after creating this Sthiti for the Jivas has been presented. Sthitavaiva Keshuchit Sadhaka Bhakteshu Daivad Vikarma Pareshu Api Tasya Anugraha Poshanam. And even while this maintenance of Sthiti is going on, see, there is Srishti Sthiti Pralaya. Srishti is creation, creation time. Sthiti is maintenance time. So while maintenance is going on, some sadhaka bhaktas, by bad luck, even when they become absorbed in vikarma, the Supreme Lord has mercy on them. And this is Poshana. This is how he nourishes them. Satam Manvantaradhipatinam dharmaha tatacharite vyaktaha. Sthitau eva kesham chet karminam satvika jivanam acharaniyo dharma uttaha. And then we have Sadharma, which refers to the dharma that is revealed in the activities of the rulers of the Manvantaras, who are all saintly souls. And it is during sthiti that the dharma, which is meant to be followed, is presented. This dharma that is meant to be followed pertains to sattvika jivas, some of the karmis, during that period of sthiti. Uyante karma bhi santanyanti tyutaya karma vasana. Uti refers to the propensities for karma. Prakrita, aprakrita, karmotha, vasana. Shubha, ashubhascha, bhavinam, sukrita, dushkritanam, karanabhuta, yadistau eva, utkrishta, apakrishta jivanam, swabhava uttara. These refer to activities that are born, propensities that are born from both material and non-material activities. In other words, the nature of superior and inferior jivas during the period of sthiti, that is presented here. This refers to auspicious and inauspicious nature. These are the causes of the sukritis and dushkritis of the jivas who will take birth in the future. This material world is created, maintained for some time, and again annihilated by the will of the Lord. The ingredients for creation and the subordinate creator, Brahma, first created by Lord Vishnu in his first and second incarnation. The first Purusha incarnation is the Mahavishnu, and the second Purusha incarnation is the Garbhavishai Vishnu, from whom Brahma is created. The third Purusha avatar is the Kshirodvishai Vishnu, who lives as a super soul of everything in the universe and maintains the creation generated by Brahma. Shiva is one of the many sons of Brahma, and he annihilates the creation. Therefore, the original creator of the universe is Vishnu. And he is also the maintainer of the created beings by his causeless mercy. As such, it is the duty of all conditioned souls to acknowledge the victory of the Lord and thus become pure devotees and live peacefully in this world, where miseries and dangers are always in existence. Conditioned souls who take this material creation as a place for satisfaction of the senses and thus are illusioned by the external energy of Vishnu remain again to be subjected to the laws of material nature, creation, and destruction. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that beginning from the topmost planet of this universe down to the lowest planet, Patala Loka, all are destructible. And the conditioned souls may travel in space either by good or bad work or by modern spacecraft, but they're sure to die everywhere, although the duration of life in different planets is different. The only means to attain eternal life is to go back home, back to Godhead, where there is no more rebirth as in the material planets. The conditioned souls, being unaware of this very simple fact, because of forgetting their relationship with the Lord of Vaikuntha, try to plan out a permanent life in this material world. Being illusioned by the external energy, they thus become engaged in various types of economic and religious development, forgetting that they are meant for going back home, back to Godhead. This forgetfulness is so strong due to the influence of Maya that the conditioned souls do not at all want to go back to Godhead. By sense enjoyment, they become victims of birth and death repeatedly and thus spoil their human lives, which are chances for going back to Vishnu. The directive scriptures made by the Manus in different ages and millenniums are called Sadharma, good guidance for the human beings who should take advantage of all the revealed scriptures for their own interest to make lives successful terminations. The creation is not false, but it is a temporary manifestation just to give a chance for the conditioned souls to go back to Godhead. The desire to go back to Godhead and functions performed in that direction form the right path of work. When such a regulative path is accepted, the Lord gives all protection to his devotees by his causeless mercy, while the non-devotees risk their own activities to bind themselves in a chain of fruitive reactions. The word sadharma is significant in this connection. Sadharma, or duty performed for going back to God or becoming his unalloyed devotee, is the only pious activity. Other activities may appear to be pious, but actually they are not. It is for this reason only that the Lord advises in the Bhagavad Gita that one give up all so-called religious activities and completely engage in the devotional service of the Lord to become free from all anxieties due to the dangerous life of material existence. To work situated in Sadharma is a right direction of life. One's aim of life should be to go back home, back to God, and not to be subjected to repeated births and deaths in the material world by getting good or bad bodies for temporary existence. Herein lies the intelligence of human life, and one should desire to perform the activities of life in that way. Okay, so we will stop with that. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः